what exactly are imported infections?
Exactly what it sounds like, Delano. Basically, Chinese nationals, Chinese citizens returning from abroad into Russia, into China. And the overwhelming majority of those, you said there are 98 of these so-called imported cases of new coronavirus. About half of those are Chinese citizens, Chinese nationals, returning to China from Russia, and really from Russia's Far East, a region called the Primorsky Krai. And what we've been basically seeing is that while Russia itself stopped all of its flights to China and closed its long land border with China back in late January and early February, there have been a number of Russian-Chinese border crossings along the northeastern Chinese province called Heilongjiang, which borders the Primorsky Krai in Russia's Far East. And Chinese citizens have availed themselves of those border crossings to be able to cross into China. Now, you've had reports of, in some cases, Chinese citizens scrambling to get back to China, repatriating themselves, flying in some cases from Moscow, 10-hour flight, out to the far eastern city of Vladivostok, and then, in the absence of any connecting flights to China, going by foot across border crossings into one city in Hubei province called Suifenhe, and also then onwards to the capital of that province, Harbin. There were reports also of an Aeroflot flight from Moscow to Shanghai. This was on April 10th. So we're really just talking a few days ago. 60 people on that flight were confirmed to test positive for coronavirus. Now, obviously, that was one flight repatriating Chinese nationals. I'll note that the Chinese consulate in Vladivostok, a Russian city in the Far East, noted that 243 Chinese citizens with the coronavirus had already crossed into China, crossed the Russian border into China. China's been stepping up Wuhan-style restrictions in this northeastern province. So if you're in Suifenhe on that border with Russia's Far East or in Harbin, basically right now, and you're arriving, you're subject to a 28-day quarantine plus testing. And if you're in Hubei and you're in a building that has anyone with coronavirus in it, you are going to be locked down and put into quarantine as well for 14 days. So we're seeing China on the one hand saying it's stamping out the virus across most of the country, but in this one region in the Northeast, you're seeing a troubling rise in cases, the highest in 6 weeks, and that is leading to a reimposition of the types of restrictions we saw a couple of months back in Wuhan.
Doug, is what we're seeing in China a precursor for what is to come here in Europe? This as some countries are slowly allowing non-essential work to resume?
Well, look, what it is it's perhaps a little bit of a warning flag that, do not shout victory too early in the fight against coronavirus, because even if you have within your own country said that you have stamped out the virus or are on the way to doing so, there is a threat of your own nationals, forget foreign nationals, coming into your country from places where they have been infected and then causing a so-called second wave of reinfections. Now, you mentioned European cities now looking towards the horizon of how do they come out of deconfinement. Spain is one of the countries right now which has basically resumed and allowed some businesses, and I have to underline only some non-essential businesses, we're talking some factory workers, some construction sites, to resume business this Monday. But Pedro Sanchez, the Spanish prime minister, very careful to stress this is not the end of the state emergency. Spain remains in lockdown, and it's only the end of what he called the extreme hibernation period of extreme lockdown. So Spain, maybe not looking to China just yet, but there seems to be a wariness here in Europe as they try to ease lockdown restrictions. They don't want to fall back into a relapse, and they certainly don't want to see what's occurring perhaps in China reoccurring. How to stop that is right now anyone's guess the source of a fierce debate across Europe.